Have you ever looked up at a dragonfly hovering in the summer air and thought it beautiful, delicate, harmless? Now imagine that same creature, but with wings spanning the length of your arm, eyes the size of tennis balls, and jaws that could tear through flesh. Imagine the sound of those wings, not a gentle hum, but a thunderous roar that shook ancient forests. Would you still call it beautiful? Or would you run? 300 million years ago, during a period we now call the Carboniferous, Earth was not the world we know today. It was a planet remade by oxygen, transformed into a laboratory where nature experimented with size and where the laws of biology were rewritten. In that primordial world, one creature rose above all others to claim dominion over the skies. Its name was Meganeura, and it was not just an insect. It was an apex predator, a nightmare with wings. This is the legend of the six-legged sky warrior, the largest flying insect that ever existed, and the world that made it possible. To understand this creature, we must journey back through deep time to an era when the air itself was different, richer, more dangerous. Meganeura wasn't an accident of evolution. It was the result of a planet pushed to its biological extremes, a perfect storm of climate, chemistry, and opportunity. The story begins not with the creature itself, but with the world that birthed it, a world that would feel almost alien if you could step into it today. To understand Meganeura, we must first understand the world it inhabited, a world transformed by one element: oxygen. About 350 million years ago, Earth's atmosphere contained roughly 15% oxygen, similar to what we breathe today. The continents were assembling into the supercontinent Pangaea. Life on land was still new, but plants were spreading fast. Over the next tens of millions of years, something extraordinary happened. Vast forests of strange plants spread across low-lying continents. These were not modern forests with flowering trees and fruits, but dense jungles of giant ferns, towering club mosses, and primitive trees called lepidodendrons. Some reached 40 meters tall, their roots sunk into endless swamps. These plants were among the first to use lignin, the tough compound that makes wood rigid and allows plants to grow tall. But there was a catch. Nothing yet existed that could properly break lignin down. No fungi, no bacteria, no decomposers had the enzymes to digest dead wood. So when these giants fell, they didn't rot like trees do today. Trunks and branches sank into oxygen-poor swamps and piled up in thick layers. Over millions of years, heat and pressure turned those layers into the coal seams we mine today. That's why we call this time the Carboniferous, the age that locked away huge amounts of carbon underground. While carbon was being buried, oxygen was being pumped into the sky. Plants kept photosynthesizing, releasing oxygen, but decomposition couldn't keep up. Oxygen levels soared. At their peak, they reached around 30 to 35%, far higher than today's 21%. For large animals like us, that kind of atmosphere would be dangerous. High oxygen can damage tissues and turn forests into tinderboxes where fires rage hotter and spread faster. But for insects, it changed everything. Insects don't breathe with lungs. They use a network of tiny tubes called tracheae that bring oxygen directly from openings in the exoskeleton to the tissues. This system works well for small bodies, but it relies on diffusion, which is slow over long distances. In today's air, that limits how big insects can get. If they grow too large, oxygen simply can't reach the inner cells fast enough. In a 35% oxygen world, diffusion works over longer distances. The same tracheal tubes can feed a much larger body. The size ceiling lifts. Evolution suddenly has room to explore giant insects, from oversized millipedes to flying predators with hawk-sized wings. And it did. The Carboniferous became a world of giants. The climate was warm and humid, with few deserts and no polar ice caps. Lowland swamps and forests stretched for thousands of kilometers. The ground was a spongy mass of peat. Strange fungi rose like pillars. Rivers wound lazily through dark, tannin-stained water. Thunderstorms rolled regularly across the landscape, feeding an almost endless cycle of growth. On the forest floor crawled Arthropleura, a millipede-like creature more than 2.5 meters long. Despite its terrifying size, it seems to have been mostly herbivorous, feeding on rotting plant matter. In the undergrowth lurked Pulmonoscorpius, a scorpion up to 70 centimeters long. Its pincers could crush, and its stinger could deliver a powerful venom. Early amphibians filled the swamps, some eel-like and fully aquatic, others clumsy walkers on land, evolution's first experiments with four-legged vertebrates. And above all this, the air itself was alive. Huge mayflies drifted over the water. Primitive cockroaches scuttled through the leaf litter. Griffinflies, ancient relatives of dragonflies, patrolled the skies, tracing invisible highways between trees and pools. Among them, one insect ruled, Meganeura. When fossilized wings of Meganeura were first described in the late 19th century, they seemed almost unbelievable. A single wing could reach more than 30 to 35 centimeters. The full wingspan approached 70 centimeters or more, almost the width of a human arm. The body of Meganeura was around 35 centimeters long, roughly the size of a small bird, and may have weighed around 100 to 150 grams. That is enormous for an insect. Its wings were thin membranes supported by an intricate lattice of veins. These veins acted like the struts of an aircraft wing, distributing stress and preventing the wing from buckling during powerful flaps and tight turns. The wings attached to a massive thorax packed with flight muscle, perhaps half the animal's total mass. Models of its aerodynamics suggest Meganeura could likely reach speeds of around 40 to 45 kilometers per hour and perform sharp, agile maneuvers. Like modern dragonflies, it probably could hover, fly backward, and change direction almost instantly, weaving through dense vegetation with astonishing control. But the real weapons were in its head. Two enormous compound eyes dominated its face. Modern dragonflies can have up to 30,000 individual lenses per eye and see nearly all around them at once. Meganeura's even larger eyes likely outperformed those, giving it a near 360-degree field of view and excellent motion detection. In a cluttered forest filled with moving wings and darting bodies, that kind of vision meant one thing. Nothing escaped its notice for long. Below the eyes sat heavy, serrated mandibles. These jaws were built for cutting and crushing. Fossil evidence in comparison with modern dragonflies suggests Meganeura fed on other insects and possibly on small amphibians, gripping them with spiny legs and tearing them apart piece by piece. The 6 legs were lined with spines and ended in strong claws. Like modern dragonflies, Meganeura probably formed a sort of basket with its legs in flight, scooping prey straight out of the air. Once something fell into that trap, escape was unlikely. Everything about its design points to the same conclusion. Meganeura was an airborne hunter built for speed, precision, and violence. Imagine dawn in a carboniferous swamp. Mist curls above dark pools. The forest canopy is dense, and only scattered beams of sunlight reach the ground. Somewhere high on a dead branch, Meganeura perches, wings half spread to warm in the morning light. Its body temperature rises, its muscles wake. Below, a giant mayfly hovers above the water, looking for a place to lay eggs. Its wings make tiny ripples as they brush the surface. Small amphibians lurk below, hoping for an easy meal, but they are being watched by something far more dangerous above. Meganeura's compound eyes register the movement instantly. The insect launches. Its wings beat into a steady thrumming roar. It does not chase in a straight line. It predicts where the mayfly will be in the next moment. It dives, adjusts, and corrects with tiny motions of its wings. In seconds, it closes the distance. Spiny legs snap out and clamp around the mayfly's body. The struggle is brief. Meganeura's mandibles close on the prey's neck, bite down, and the mayfly goes limp. The hunter carries its prize to a perch and eats. Wings are torn off and dropped. Soft tissues are consumed first. Nothing important is wasted. This scene, or something very much like it, likely happened thousands of times every day in Carboniferous wetlands. Meganeura was not a passive insect waiting on leaves. It actively patrolled territories, attacked rivals, and hunted with remarkable efficiency. Modern dragonflies succeed in over 90% of their hunts. Meganeura, with superior size and power, may have been just as deadly. Like all dragonflies, Meganeura's life didn't start in the air. It began underwater. Females probably laid eggs in still or slow-moving freshwater, ponds, oxbow lakes, or quiet streams choked with vegetation. The eggs clung to submerged plants or settled into soft mud, hidden from the worst of the currents. When they hatched, the larvae, or naiads, looked nothing like the adults. They were squat, armored, and perfectly adapted for ambush in murky water. A Meganeura naiad might grow to around 15 centimeters long, already a serious predator in its own habitat. Its most terrifying tool was its extendable lower jaw, the labium. Folded beneath the head, it could shoot forward in a fraction of a second, tipped with hooks that grabbed prey and pulled it back to the jaws. Modern dragonfly larvae use the same mechanism to snatch tadpoles, insect larvae, and even small fish. Meganeura's naiads almost certainly did the same, just on a larger scale. The larval stage likely lasted several years, with the naiad molting many times as it grew. Each molt brought it closer to adulthood, developing wing pads on its back and strengthening its muscles. When the time came, the naiad crawled out of the water at night and clung to a plant stem or log. Its exoskeleton split along the back, and the adult slowly pulled itself free, pumping fluid into its soft, crumpled wings to expand them. For a few hours, it would hang there, vulnerable and unable to fly, while the wings hardened in the night air. If it survived that fragile transition, dawn would find a new sky warrior hanging from that stem. With its first flight, Meganeura left the water world behind and joined the aerial one as a fully armed hunter. The adult phase was probably much shorter than the larval one, perhaps a single breeding season. But in that span, Meganeura would claim a territory, hunt relentlessly, find mates, and start the cycle again, leaving the next generation hidden in the water below. Meganeura was not alone in the sky. Other griffin flies and large insects shared its world, competing for prey and space. Some species grew even larger wingspans, pushing the limits of what an insect body could manage in that oxygen-rich air. Aerial chases, clashes, and territorial displays must have been common above the swamps. But the conditions that allowed these giants to exist did not last. As the Carboniferous gave way to the Permian, the climate shifted. The great swamp forest shrank as regions dried and seasons became more pronounced. New kinds of plants, like early conifers, replaced the old coal forests in many areas and formed more open woodlands. Underground, fungi and bacteria evolved the ability to break down lignin. Dead wood that had once built thick peat layers now decomposed more readily. The delicate balance that had pumped oxygen into the sky began to change. Oxygen levels slowly dropped back toward modern values. For animals adapted to a 30 to 35% oxygen atmosphere, this was a problem. Meganeura's entire respiratory system, muscle structure, and activity level had evolved in a world where oxygen was abundant. As levels fell, its huge body became a liability. Generation by generation, natural selection favored smaller individuals that could function better in thinner air. The giant forms disappeared. At the same time, vertebrates were changing too. Early reptiles diversified, and eventually, in the Triassic period, the first pterosaurs, flying reptiles, took to the air. Unlike insects, these vertebrates had lungs and more efficient oxygen transport systems, letting them stay large and active even in lower oxygen. By the early Mesozoic, the age of giant insects was over. The entire group to which Meganeura belonged died out. Modern dragonflies are related, but they are distant cousins, not direct descendants. Today, when you see a dragonfly skimming over a pond, you are seeing a scaled-down echo of Meganeura's world. Modern dragonflies still have incredible aerial skills. They can hover, reverse, and turn on a dime. Their compound eyes still give them a huge field of view and acute motion detection. As predators, they are still astonishingly efficient, often catching nearly every target they go after. Paleontologists continue to study Meganeura's fossils to understand how such a large insect moved and lived. Computer models of its wings in Carboniferous air suggest it was not a clumsy glider, but a powerful, agile flyer. Studies of insect respiration and past atmospheric chemistry help explain why such giants appeared and why they vanished. Could a Meganeura-sized insect ever return? Even if oxygen levels rose again, the sky is now crowded with birds and bats, vertebrate flyers that dominate the aerial predator niches. Evolution rarely rewinds. The exact world that made Meganeura possible is gone, replaced by a different caste of airborne hunters. But its fossils remain, flattened wings and stone, impressions of veins and segments, silent evidence that Earth's past was stranger than most people imagine. "300 million years have passed since Meganeura ruled the skies. Continents have moved. Mountains have risen and eroded, and entire faunas have come and gone. Yet the idea of a dragonfly the size of a hawk still captures our imagination. Meganeura's story is more than a tale of a giant insect. It is a lesson in how tightly life is linked to its environment. Change the chemistry of the air, and you change what kinds of bodies are possible. Shift the climate, and you shift who wins and who disappears. For a brief window of deep time, Earth's atmosphere allowed insects to become monsters. Evolution took that opportunity and produced a sky warrior with 6 legs, huge eyes, and blades for jaws. The window closed. The giant fell, but its legacy survives in every dragonfly that hunts above a modern pond. Next time you watch one hover and strike, try to imagine the same shape, vastly scaled up, casting a shadow over you as it passes overhead. For our distant ancestors, had any been there to see it, that sight would have been real, not fantasy. The age of Meganeura is gone. The legend remains, and the sky remembers.